Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to speak about the subject of what is false memory. Well, it's basically the fact that you have a memory and you are remembering it in the wrong way, or you're remembering it in a way that is not exact. And that is actually a real thing. It's basically in some ways why so many of us have nostalgia and stuff like that. But they've done many tests where, for example, they would show these videos of, let's say, a car accident and stuff like that, and then they would interview the people who watched that video, and then they would say, well, how many people got hit by that car, or how many people got smashed by that car, and depending on how they would phrase the question, using the word smash or the word hit, people would remember it differently. If you heard smash, well, you would often start, all the people that would recollect it would basically recollect it with glass breaking, whereas in the actual video there was no glass breaking, but the fact that they were using that word smash kind of highlighted the fact that something smashed, something broke, and the memory was changed, it was altered. And they do that all the time, and that's why people often, well, not often, but sometimes get put into jail because of false accusations and stuff, because just the fact is that memory doesn't really remember things perfectly. It kind of remembers in a certain way, and then with time it changes. The memory changes. You can actually add more information to it. That's why sometimes if you're like a child or whatever, and somebody talks to you about that memory as a child, you might not actually be remembering it per se the way that it happened, but you're remembering the story that people are telling you. And with time, it gets stronger and stronger within your brain, and then eventually it becomes your memory, or that way that you remember it. And it's very strange, because it really shows how people can get influenced, kind of like in the same way as whoever wins the war is the person who writes history. Well, if enough people are saying the same thing, well, eventually something that might be fake can become reality, because how can one person see the world in a different way? And I think that's where movies like The Matrix start coming in, and where people see aliens, and the brain basically it has reactions. It's used to specific things, and it sees the world in a specific way, and it also kind of censors the extra things. If a tree is cut down, or if a car has moved and stuff like that, the brain will see the obvious things, but unless you're really paying attention to it, the brain will actually close it. It'll shut it. It'll not really notice it. And that's where also nostalgia comes into place, because we always remember the times as a kid as forever super long summers or super long weekends, and we remember with such fondness the video games that we played in those days and the movies that we saw. But it's because I think with time, whatever is older, whatever has stayed in our brain for very long, it becomes this very wonderful thing. But then the reality of it is that when we're living it, there wasn't much difference as opposed to today. Of course, if you're in a time of war or whatever it is, well, yeah, of course it's less sad. But let's say you're living in a peaceful country and you're at least semi-healthy and all that. Like usually the times, be it the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s or 2010s, because now we're into the 2010s and stuff. they're not different. The air is still the same. The heat is still the same. Although we are going through some global heating and stuff like that, global warming. But that's a different subject. But there's the thing is that we tend to create this nostalgia because I think the brain will change the memories. The brain will. It's like a bad relationship. If you have a bad relationship, you're gonna kind of remember the good, but then if you want to, you could also focus on the bad, and all of a sudden everything goes bad, but then you forget about the good. So in life, really, people have to, I guess, if they want to live a good life, is focus on the good, because since the brain is able to change all these things, to change memories, to change the way that your life is, then basically it's a perception of your brain. So if you can teach your brain to see differently, to act differently, to react differently to certain things, well, if you decide you want to live a good life, well, then your brain will eventually be able to learn that, even if you might not have the most glamorous or whatever, because TV and all that stuff kind of teaches us that we need to have the diamond, we need to have a nice car, we need to have the big 70-inch TV and stuff like that to be happy. But like, really? This is pretty easily attainable. It's just stuff you can get with money. So if it's stuff that's easily attainable with money, well, then you just have to go to a shop and buy it. There's no real achievement to that. The achievement, I guess, is making that money. But is it the fact of having a Jaguar as opposed to a very good Toyota that is just, if not more reliable? Does having the Jaguar make you a happier person? I don't really think so. I mean, you're in the city, you're not gonna race, except if that's your thing, racing. So that's what I'm saying. We're easily manipulated, we're easily changed, we're easily told things and we believe them. So don't believe so much your brain, but believe basically your intelligence in some way. Try to think for yourself, question yourself twice, thrice, but don't do bad. And I do think that if you think that way, then you won't get manipulated. But if you're able to literally change what people remember by just talking about them, then I guess a lot of the judicial system and all these things are kind of manipulative, in some way. And I think that's the whole psychology of politics, where basically you can get manipulated and all that stuff, and money manipulates too. And yeah, it's very sad, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting to be thinking about these things, because if again, if you know you can manipulate a memory, you can manipulate a thing, then you can make it into a certain strength. And again, if people are depressed and all that stuff, well, maybe you're able to manipulate your brain to maybe forget some things that have traumatized you, because maybe you hang on to these things and you just evolve, forget that. Treat it as an experience. And either way, if you're still breathing, you're still alive and stuff, you can change things. Things can be changed. And it's something I've spoken about in other videos. What happens in the past and all these things are not relevant so much in a way, because basically, well, we only have the present. We think about the future, we think a lot about the past, but the past has passed. The future hasn't happened yet. And the present, well, it's right now, so that's all you have. So that's it. That's all I have to say. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.